Well, our gospel and our readings are all interrelated. Let's go back in history. Well, we don't like that, but go back 333 years before the time of Jesus. Alexander the Great conquered everything between Egypt and India. And for a little about 250 years, the Greeks controlled all the Middle East, including the Holy Land, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all those places. The Greek rulers declared that the religion they should accept is the Greek religion, false religion, and the culture. And the Jews were being forced to give up their belief in God, the one they had followed for 1,500 years. And if you did not submit to the Greek false gods, you would be persecuted or killed. Some of the Jews converted to the Greek ways and pagan worship. Others remained faithful to Yahweh. It's interesting to note that even in the Middle East today, if you're a Christian, you're going to be persecuted, or you are being persecuted, or even killed for your faith. Well, back to our story, the paganism which the Greeks prevailed upon lasted, of course, until we bring ourselves together into the New Testament. Now, those who were the faithful Jews who followed God were called they were ridiculed, as they are today. Christians are ridiculed today in the Middle East. And they're ridiculed because of their traditional faith in God. And they call them the just ones. Well, the just one, of course, is Jesus. Being faithful to God's work is justified. Now, Jesus is trying to prepare the apostles for the sufferings that was going to take place, and he mentioned it, but they didn't really understand it. They didn't want to question about it. They didn't get it at all, and they had big egos. They were ambitious people, I guess, but they wouldn't make very good disciples if they didn't understand about Jesus, who he was, and so on. So Jesus was talking to them to educate them, basically, and he saw a child and brought the child over, and he said, unless you become a child like this, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. In other words, children are totally dependent upon their parents. They've got to change a diaper, you have to feed them, you have to take care of them, and they're really helpless, but they trust in you. So, it's service attitude. If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all and the servant of all. Jesus said, didn't come to serve, but did not to be served, but to serve. So this attitude really has to be our attitude also. Love of neighbor. Of course, we have to love ourselves, and doing a good for others. And that's really what it's about. Jesus, well, what would he do for us? He did everything for us. He died for us. And we have the body and blood on this altar today in His Holy Communion. Now, our Christian spirit, our Catholic spirit, has to be one of joy in helping others, not depression. We're not trying to impress anyone. We're trying to help everyone. Maybe you've heard this story before. A man who died and went to heaven. He was amazed when he got there to find people who he never expected to find in heaven. He commented to God, I never expected to find some of these people here. And by the way, why is everybody so quiet and not talking? God said, well, they're kind of shocked. They didn't expect to see you here either. Many of us are probably very surprised when we get to heaven and find out who is there. Maybe not some politicians, or maybe not some millionaires or billionaires, or rock stars or football players. Maybe your local school teacher, maybe your catechist, a fireman, a cleaning lady, a secretary, enjoying the high positions in heaven. We praise and thank God for them. And we praise and thank God for all of our catechists, those who are giving their service to committing themselves to teaching the faith to our young people. Now, the little child. We know that children are the most humble creatures on earth. They can be very self-centered because they want everything, but they don't have any social standing really, and they have to be concerned, and they have to need the adults to help them along the way. And they have to learn a lot. They have to learn a language. They have to learn how to behave. And the children trust. Very important. They trust, and we need to have childlike trust in Jesus. Unless you become like a little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, what are we going to be great at, and how do we define greatness? Well, the first rule of being great is to go where the greatest would go. The greatest, of course, is Jesus. And where did he go? Well, he was born in a poor family in a stable in Bethlehem, and he gave that all up after he became a carpenter working with Joseph, and he spent his time with fishermen, poor people, eating and drinking with sinners, oh my gosh, and healing the sick and the disabled. That's where Jesus went. He gave this all up for us as he suffered on a cross, humiliating death. And Jesus did it all for us. Not for his glory, but for us. There's a story that I heard a long time ago, and it's much worse now, but this boy is an 11-year-old kid, and he lived in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And he saw there was a lot of homeless people in the center city of Philadelphia. And he was concerned about that. So he convinced his parents to gather up as many blankets as they could, and he had the parents drive him, he's only 11 years old, to downtown Philadelphia, where he passed out blankets to the homeless people, as many as he had. And he did that until he ran out. And that was the beginning. And the next week he asked his parents, well, let's gather some clothes that we don't need, and with the blankets, maybe some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to go down and feed the homeless people on the streets. Well, somebody got word of this, or wind of it, and he was on television, and other volunteers came forward, and they got a van and made a ministry out of taking care of the homeless in Philadelphia. Now, why would an 11-year-old kid spend his evenings and weekends making up food and collecting blankets and clothes for the homeless? Good question. So they asked him. And he said, it's Jesus inside of me that makes me want to do this. This little kid, his name was Trevor, found that greatest one of all, give himself, Jesus did. And he was motivated, this kid was, by Jesus to go to the neediest members of the community to share Jesus' love with them. Pretty good, I'd say. And what about us? Well, the second rule of being great isn't about you, it's about God working through you. So it's really about you, but what God works through you. Now, if you read the Bible, you'll find from beginning to end, God didn't choose the strongest, or the bravest, or the most powerful, or the smartest, or the richest to change the world. In fact, Jesus chose people that were most likely not to succeed. But they became the heroes of faith. And how did they do this? They let God use them for good works. What would happen if you let God use you for good works? There are a lot of things that we can be doing. Now, we salute our catechists and those who are training and forming our young people. Very, very important. God is using you to do good works for our young people and for our elder people who need to learn about the faith. That is really good. So God created you, yep, what for? Well, not to be in first place, not to get a great promotion, not to be a football hero. God created you for greatness. And it defined it by Jesus. 2 rules to be great. Go where Jesus would go. Where does he go? To the least, the lost, the lonely, the depressed, those who need him. And second rule is to serve. Help those who are in need. Go to the neediest and help those who need whatever it is. And you'll be a real star and make a great impact in the kingdom of heaven. So, it is about serving others. And it's very important on Catechetical Day to stop and think and also congratulate and thank those who serve others. We're not sitting on a couch watching TV. We're not really washing the feet of the apostles, but we are doing good works. And it's not what we do that matters, Being a doctor or a carpenter or a bus driver or a catechist or a teacher, it's the kind of doctor or catechist or teacher or bus driver that counts. It's not what you do, but what are you doing it for? What is the purpose? The most important thing is Jesus. So Christ urged the apostles to do this. They did a good job. He gave us an example by dying on the cross, and he gave his life for you and for everyone. And that's the greatest ultimate sacrifice, and he is the greatest. Albert Schweitzer had words, and this is what he said. I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know, the only ones of you who will be happy are those who sought and found how to serve. I repeat that. Those only ones who are really happy are those who sought and found how to serve. Here in this community, there are plenty of opportunities to serve. Plenty of opportunities, and all we have to do is be open to it and ask the Lord to show us and point us the need. After all, he is the greatest, and we can be great in the kingdom of God too and deserve our place in heaven if we serve one another. And we're not blind. There's plenty of opportunities. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you please stand now, we'll have our creed.